Edward began to explain Henry the details of what Lady Hatt did with the Wellsworth station master. At last, Lady Hatt came over to the crash site. "I'm really sorry, everyone. I was so distracted and, oh dear, I feel terrible." "You don't have to be sorry," said Edward. I wasn't aware either." Edward and Henry forgot to become very cross, and they felt sorry for Lady Hatt. "Wow," said Percy. I'd never heard such words before," said Percy. "Neither did I," said Toby. "I'm very surprised." "Well, it must be put right," said Thomas. "Don't worry, everyone. I can get this settled in no time." And so, Thomas the Tank Engine buffered up to Edward's train and pulled it away to begin the operation. He later collected the breakdown train in the siding next to Wellsworth Station, thanks to Thomas's driver and fireman, and he puffed out of the siding to get back to the crash site. "My, Thomas is doing very well today," said Annie. "I'm very, very surprised." "Oh, I'm not surprised at all," said Clarabelle. It's very enjoyable to see Thomas the Tank Engine doing his work like this." "Oh, I'm very flattered to see Thomas do such wonderful things," said Henrietta. She was very happy. It was quite expected. However, there were some engines that wanted to get to the Sir Topham Hatt's return party. They were upset. "Oh, come on," said James. "We have to get going. Sir Topham Hatt will be arriving any minute." "Okay," said Donald. "We need to get out of here as fast as we can. Besides, Sir Topham Hatt will be here soon." "Yeah, what would he say?" said Douglas. "It is a very unfortunate circumstance at this point." "You're all jealous," yelled Duck. "There's an accident in front of us. That's why we're being held up. So you better be patient." "Duck is quite right," said Gordon furiously. "Now, if you engines stop talking like idiots, we're not going to be here forever." "Yeah, and then Sir Topham will be arriving, and then who knows what," said Emily. Soon Terence the tractor arrived. He wanted to join the operation, which, to Lady Hatt's delight, she agreed. Terence began turning around to make sure that everything was right and that the operation would succeed properly. Workmen arrived and placed a jack under Edward's bogie wheels so that they could lift him back onto the rails. Fortunately, the plan went to succession, and it worked out very well. Then Thomas coupled up to Edward and pulled him to the party. The same thing was done with Henry. A jack was placed under his buffer beam so that he could be back on the rails as well. Fortunately, the plan went to succession, and Henry was back on the rails. Percy arrived to help. Then a few of the engines started to come one by one. First James and Douglas, and then some more workmen arrived to place jacks under the front coach, and it was soon re-railed. Percy then came along. His driver uncoupled Henry from the train in great succession, and Percy pulled Henry to the party. Then Emily and Duck arrived so that they could join in as well. Duck took the train the rest of the way when he arrived at Wellsworth. Then Percy arrived at the party, and Gordon had enough clearance to get through. At last, everything was set. Then they heard a familiar whistle. It was Stephen. "Stephen!" said Thomas. "Where have you been? It's like you've been in hiding, for God's sakes," said Thomas. "Oh, don't worry about it," said Stephen. "I've been all over the place. Sir Robert Normanby needs me for a few projects he's doing," said Stephen. "Indeed he is," said a familiar voice. Sir Topham Hatt said, "Thank you, Thomas. You're a really useful engine." And then the engines celebrated. The engines celebrated that their controller was back home at last.